Hello, that's Veronica from ETours, Russia. I'm sure that most of you have heard of Russian novelist Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He was awarded with Nobel Prize for Literature in 1970s. His book, The Gulag Archipelago, was an attempt to describe the Soviet system of prisons and labor camps, which happened to be formed soon after the Bolsheviks came to power, so in 1920s, and happened to prosper during the age of Stalin. The exposition of the museum starts from the collection of original doors which were taken from different houses and prisons related to the history of Gulag camps and prison system in the Soviet Union. One of them is just behind me. These are the original doors from the pre-trial detention center number 1, which is located in the Russian city of Magadan. It's quite famous here. Founded in 2007 by the famous historian Anton Antonov Ovsienko, it tells the story of repressions which started in 1920s and lasted until the death of Stalin. Also, it makes you reflect on the human's life value. Founder himself was imprisoned by the Soviet government for simply being a son of the enemy of nation or the son of the enemy of people. This term was extensively used by the Soviet government and it applied to the whole imperial family, aristocrats, bourgeoisie, social parasites, simply to those who didn't fit to the new ideology of the Soviet Union. Most of these people could be sentenced to labor camps. They could be sentenced for different reasons, for having a particular social background, ethnicity, race, or even unusual surname. What is Gulag? Gulag is a Russian acronym which means the Chief Administration of Corrective Labor Camps. First Gulag camps appeared soon after the revolution of 1917 in Moscow, and they were located in the former places of different Russian Orthodox churches and monasteries. The legal basis for the political prisoners also was formed and had been forming during the age of Stalin mostly. The museum collection was based not only on the documents which were taken from the archives, it also was based on the personal stories told by the people who came to this museum, especially for the exposition, for making it. And here you may find different private stories, both in English and Russian. This, for example, tells the story of mom of one of the sons of the enemies who went to the camp. One of the most famous Soviet forced labor camps was located on Solovetsky Islands in the White Sea. Thus, we know it as a political camp or prison for those who were imprisoned for political reasons. Alexander Solzhenitsyn himself called it as the mother of Gulag, as it was a test site. Later on, the methods of administration of camp, as well as the different living conditions of the prisoners, were taken on boards for other camps around Soviet Union. Most of the camps were located remotely from any kind of civilization. The living conditions were merciless, and sometimes prisoners had to make different household utensils by themselves. Here in the collection you may find the spoons or different forks and knives made by the prisoners of the particular camp. If you want to explore the geography of Gulag system, as well as the large-scale sites around Russia and the former Soviet Union, you can find it out in the main exhibit, which is the interactive map of Gulag. So if you look carefully, you will find that there is a scale of the years of existence of Gulag from 1918 up to 1960s. Each year explains how many people were imprisoned and how many people died in the camps.
Один шкелет, извиняюсь за выражение, остался на мне. Это значит, что за зону выводить нельзя, замерзну.
There was only one way to survive in the labor camps, to perform a so-called light labor, type of labor which you could perform indoors, not outdoors. Women, if they could sew or make embroidery, they could survive as well, and they were highly valued, and they could make even some money for that. Also, different people of different professions, such as doctors, for example, or people with medical educations, were also highly valued. That's why they would perform indoors and help other people. They were also some actors or musicians imprisoned, so they would perform on the stage of the prisoner theater for entertainment of other prisoners and the administration of camp. The Stalin's purges happened to be in 1937 and 1938, went down in the history as the period of the Great Terror. 700,000 people were executed from the order of Stalin, and he's responsible for that. The reason was just to execute those who were anti-ideology or anti-Soviet government. One of the rooms of the museum is known as the repressed childhood. Along with different utensils or personal belongings of the prisoners, you may find different little toys and clothes for kids. The thing is that the repressed woman could be pregnant or could have a newborn baby. If there were no relatives to leave it with them, she would bring the baby in a camp. There is a little exposition devoted to Alexander Solzhenitsyn himself. And as you may know from the history, Alexander Solzhenitsyn was also sentenced to the labor in the camp for 8 years. And after that, he was exiled forever from the Soviet Union. So in 1970, he was awarded with the Nobel Prize for Literature. And later on, in 1973, the Gulag Archipelago, the book, was published, and the world would know the word Gulag. In 1953, on the 5th of March, Stalin died, and later on, 3 years later, according to the 20th Council of the Communist Party, according to the politics of Nikita Khrushchev, the Gulag system started to be demolished. With the death of Stalin in 1950s and 1960s, with the rehabilitation, people started to have hope, but we still remember that 20 million people were arrested and went through the camp. More than 5 million people were arrested for political reasons. A lot of people were arrested and lost their lives and never came back from the camps. It is enough if you don't freeze in the cold and the hunger and thirst don't claw at your insides. If both arms can bend and both feet can walk, both eyes can see and both ears can hear, then whom should you envy and why? One of the departments of Moscow Gulag Museum is located here in the house on the embankment, which is just next to the Kremlin and on the embankment of Moscow River. The house on the embankment museum was opened in 2002 from the initiative of one of the oldest residents of this house. It reveals the whole story of this mystical house, which was built in 1931 from the order of the Soviet government. The current director of the museum is the wife of the very famous Soviet writer Yuri Trifonov. He wrote the book which is known as The House on the Embankment, and the book describes the lives of common citizens and people who lived in this house during the age of Stalin. It's about repressions, it's about different fates of people, and so on and so forth. The mother and father of Yuri Trifonov were arrested also during the age of Stalin in 1930s and lost their lives. They lived in this house. So in 1939, Yuri Trifonov, being a young boy, had to move out from this house. Due to the fact that a lot of citizens of Moscow could be arrested during the Soviet repressions, you may find a lot of buildings with the same silver plates. On the silver plates you will find the names of those people who lived in this particular building. Here we may find several of them. There is the special data about these people, their names, the year they were arrested, the year they were repressed or sent into the camps, exiled or shot, and if they were rehabilitated after the age of Stalin, you will find also the year of rehabilitation. We have visited 2 departments of Moscow Gulag Museum. Thanks for watching our release and follow us in social media.